Loud. Boom. Okay. So we are recording and we are officially kicked off. Greg, I just went over a quick run on the agenda with everyone informally so that we could get rolling. And so without further ado, I'm going to kick us off. If there's any public comment, Claire, you're our only public person not on our agenda. Is there anything you have?
No comments. I don't think Cease did either.
Okay. You can tell Cease though, we missed her, but we are excited to have your face here tonight too. So
How's she doing? Is she doing okay? She's doing okay?
Doing fine, Christina, thanks.
Good, good.
all right. So Greg, do you want to introduce Rachel since you were the one who spearheaded getting her invited and kicked off here to give us an update?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much for your time. Sorry, I'm late again. I would like to introduce Rachel Friedman, who is the CEO of Flozine in Ashburnham, a business that has been around for a very long time, and she's a very important contributor to the town as far as businesses go. My understanding, Kirby, is we talked a little bit that used to do these types of forums in the past, bringing in businesses. So thought we'd bring in Rachel to talk about the company and her relationship with Ashburnham and just what the company is all about. What they bring to the community, and maybe bring up any questions that may be relevant to to some of our focus, when it comes to barriers and things like that. So, Rachel, thank you so much for joining this meeting. And I would like to hand it off to you to maybe give an introduction of yourself and maybe talk a little bit about, what you're about, what your company does.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Rachel Friedman. I am one of the owners of Flow Chemical. So we are on Puffer Street. I know Rosemary's been in to see us. And Kirby, I think you came to pick up hand sanitizer or someone from your neck of the woods. So the building on Puffer Street forever ago was owned by Curtis Chair. And then it was bought by my mother's brother, and it was the Round Leg Factory, if anybody's a really long timer in town. And in '75, that building was sold to my father and his brother so that they could set up a factory to make Zane. So Zane is Z-E-I-N, and that's the product that we're still making there. I'm laughing. So it was my uncle's building, and then it was my father and other uncle's building on the other side of the family. The company was run really in absentia by my father and uncle for a very long time. They had a successful factory there, but they had another company that would sell the product, and they never had any sales marketing effort. With some luck and a very good product, they got some good customers. I'll tell you in a second what we make, what it is that we make. I came in 14. I had just left HBO, home box office, after 17 years and was doing other things. And I came up to sort of help my dad try to sell the company. When I came up, I realized there were a lot of issues, some of which I could fix and some I didn't understand. And I stayed. I didn't think I was going to stay, but I have clearly stayed. And I now have a house up here, and we've made a different kind of life up here. Okay, so Zane. Zane is an all-natural coating for food and pharmaceuticals. So for people who've come to see our factory, we have silos full of corn, and we have an extraction process, an all-natural extraction process to pull out the alpha-zane protein from the corn. And we produce 25-kilo boxes of this yellow powder. So people who buy this powder are putting coatings on pharmaceutical pills, caplets to protect them. They're making beadlets of active ingredients. So if you buy a capsule of medication and you see tiny little beadlets in there, one of the ingredients that they could use to make it is the zane. When you take a pill, if you've ever taken an uncoated pill, you get powder on your hands. Nowadays, most pills are coated. Zane is one of the ingredients that can be used to coat pills. So we make a food grade zane and a pharmaceutical grade zane. On the food side, customers use it to coat chocolate, candies, snack chips. Why do foods need to be coated? They need to be coated to protect them and to increase the shelf life of them. So if you think of a Raisin Bran cereal. So in Raisin Bran, the raisins are coated so that any moisture from the raisins doesn't leach out in packaging and make the flakes soggy.
Right.
A lot of the foods that we eat have barrier coatings in them, either to keep oxygen in or out and keep moisture in or out. So our customers, about 60% are food customers, 40% are, well, let's say 30% are pharma, and about 10% are agricultural. So we make some combination products with the zane. So for example, potato seeds, potato pieces are coated before planting. The zane coating allows them to be protected from moisture in the soil so they don't rot. They can sprout, and that has increased potato yields around the country. Okay, so there are agricultural uses for this as well. Our biggest competition is food shellac. Food shellac is a lot of food that we eat. It comes from, it's an excrement from the lac bug, and similar to the way honey is an excrement from bees. Everything, so our plant is 100% vegan. It is certified OU kosher. We're an FDA registered and certified licensed facility. We employ 10 people at our plant, most of whom live within 2 or 3 miles of the plant. 4 people live in Ashburnham, maybe 5. Okay, we've been around a really long time. You know, when I came on board, we didn't have a sign, we didn't have a logo, we didn't have a lot of the nice things that established companies have, and we have all that now. And we have definitely increased our business. When I came on board, we were severely struggling, and that is an understatement. We are holding our own now, and we're involved in a couple of really nice ventures that if something takes off, it will make a really nice difference for Ashburnham. So one is a water-based coating for fresh fruits and vegetables to increase shelf life. And the studies consistently have shown that it increases the shelf life of a fruit or vegetable by 10 days. It's not an expensive product. It's very easy to use. So we're working with some of the very large fruit producers who are doing testing on that. Another product works on eggs to keep eggs fresher longer. And these are kind of nice opportunities when we're all much more aware of food insecurity, hunger issues, and the idea of being able to get food from where it's grown to the places that it's needed and have a longer time to do that would benefit a lot of people in this world. So those are exciting projects for us. We are working with Mass Tech Collaborative. I think some of you know that. And so we will be we've sent them all the preliminary writing, and we'll be working with them on a project to, we've decided we're working on sales. Like, how do we increase our sales reach, with the idea that if we can increase sales, we have more capacity in our current factory. And that would be great if we could increase sales, put on another shift, hire some more local people. And I've worked really hard to hire local people. So Greg's wife Meredith now works for us. She started in May, and that was a great hire. We want to be supportive of the community. Going back to what I offered to you, Kirby, we either recycle or reuse everything. So the only garbage we make in our factory is that very small dumpster we have in the front of the place. So we use ethanol for our extraction. And we recycle ethanol, and one day I hope you guys will visit and I can show that to you. And after we pull our alpazane protein out of the corn that we get, we dry it and we sell it back to farmers, either for all natural, non-GMO fertilizer or for animal feed. So we're really reusing everything that we start with. We recycle water within our plant, and that's nice too, that we have a very small carbon footprint. Shall I continue, or is that enough? Or
Do folks have questions at this point?
yeah, I could tell you a couple of things I'm interested in. I'm definitely interested in some of the grants that you're looking into to do some upgrade of the DPW area and, areas that surround us and might affect our access or our physical factory is one. The rail trail actually runs on our property in the back there. So I'm interested in anything that goes on there. A very long time ago, my dad gave the land for the two baseball fields next to us. And I've actually been in conversation quite a while ago with Brian Dennehy, is that the correct name? About some land swap in the back there, because I own all the land around the playing fields as well and in the back of them. And there's room for a road to go alongside our factory if Ashburnham ever wanted to increase parks and recreation areas. So we have tried hard to be good citizens of Ashburnham. We patronize the businesses in Ashburnham a lot, any way we can. We hire locally, and we do a great job supporting Ashburnham Power and Light. I think next to Cushing, we have the biggest electric bill in town. So
You and Paul can swap
So-
light bill stories.
And we don't want to compete.
and
Really?
where do you work, Phil? Paul?
Cushing. I'm the
Oh, you
CFO.
work at Cushing?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay. My bills may be higher than yours, so.
You win.
Ah,
You brought up the DPW as something that's of interest in that area. In what sense? Is that a concern or an interest?
No, I'm just sort of wondering if anything will change on Puffer Street or any kind of development in that area.
What kind of development would you like to see there? Since it's somewhat
well-
adjacent to your factory.
So business-wise, it doesn't really matter to me what actually goes into that space. I mean, it would be great to have maybe more restaurant options or things like that, and anything that would bring people to the town to, spend their money in the town is good for the town, certainly. I took a really good look at everything, and it's not the most beautiful presentation there. And so something that could make the whole thing more attractive.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Folks have other
Anybody?
questions?
So, well, Rosemary has been in to see us, but I would love everyone to come see what it is,
Yeah.
because from the front door view, you have no idea what it looks like back there. And it's a real live factory. I did want to mention one more thing. In March, April, and May, our business pretty much shut down. Our European customers stopped ordering. Our other customers sort of didn't know, are they in production? Should they be locked down, et cetera? And as some of you know, on April 1st, we got FDA approval to make hand sanitizer. And we had the ethanol because we used ethanol in our process. And that was the hard thing to get. We sourced the other raw materials. The only containers we had at the time were 5-gallon buckets. And that's what we packed in. And then we put out on Facebook, if you bring 1-gallon jugs, we'll fill them and label them for you. And literally every morning there was a line waiting for us to fill hand sanitizer jugs. And people were bringing like milk containers and, Sunny Delight containers, anything they could find they brought. And I got a call from a woman who owns 4 gas stations in Fitchburg. And she said, I don't have any 1-gallon jugs. And I was like, yeah, you do. Take all your windshield wiper fluid, empty it into cars, wash them out and bring them here. And that hand sanitizer business really kept us in business for April and May. And starting in the middle of June, orders started to come in again. We also gave away a lot of hand sanitizer during that time to Haywood Hospital and a lot of the assisted living places, to the food pantry in town. I brought stuff up to the town offices because we had something at that time that people could not get a hold of. So we're happy to help, and we're hoping that Ashburnham's the place for us to be for the, as we go forward.
Yeah, Rachel,
Okay.
thank you so much. It truly is amazing to show how such a company with such an international reach, right, can be found in small towns like Ashburnham, and for many, many years of sustainable production and manufacturing. I can tell you when I first moved to town about 18 years ago, I had no idea, Rachel. I had no idea the history of the company or even what was there, and it took years for me to understand. In addition to the impact that you've made to the town, from the rail trail to Martin Field, which my kids grew up on, playing ball. All that's tied in. And, at least I can speak for myself, but very much appreciate the partnership that you give to the town. My understanding is that you also do or work with our school district too in internship programs. And, that's just a real great partnership with the town. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Let me just tell you what that is. So the school system came to us and they have the ACE program, which is for special ed students who are getting some job training, et cetera, and asked if we had any opportunities. And we thought about it and we did. So we have a young woman who comes in 2 days a week. She's been learning a lot and doing office work, and we set up a computer for her, and she knew a lot about computers from school. And she's turning 22 at the end of February. So she's aging out of her program, and we will then keep her and pay her for the 2 days a week that she works.
Great.
And it's been a nice experience for all of us. So
Excellent.
Awesome.
a lot of people have found opportunities in our company. Yeah.
Before you sign off, I don't know if you're going to sign off or continue on sitting in on the meeting, but I did want to let you know, Rachel, that we did receive the Mass Development Grant for technical assistance on the redevelopment of south of Main Street, which encompasses the DPW lot. We expect that project to kick off relatively soon. Our consultant was named and they provided us with a scope of services. And, we signed our memo of agreement with them last week. So I would expect that we'll be setting up those meetings soon. It's my understanding that it's RKG Associates will be reaching out to stakeholders in the redevelopment area who might wish to speak to them. So, if this is something you'd like to participate on, I can let them know when I meet with them. So what they're essentially doing is they're doing two tasks. One is a review of zoning, and they're doing construction of up to 3 build-out scenarios of potential reuse. And I'm only speaking about the DPW, which would be either commercial, residential, or industrial, based on their findings. And then they're going to be doing a fiscal impact model and analysis based on those up to 3 build-out scenarios. So that will be able to help us justify as a town, a cost-benefit analysis on whether or not the DPW should be moved, given the expense of building a new DPW.
Is that scope of work public information?
Well, I just said it in a public meeting.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so
No,
it is.
but the written document.
Not yet. We just have an internal memo, but after we have our project kickoff, I'm sure it will be. So they'll be
Great.
responsible. RKG will be doing all the community meetings and all the research and everything.
Okay, I would love to be part of that. And
Great.
no,
Yeah,
I don't
so-
live in town. But I
Well,
would be very interested in working with you.
What they'll be doing is just interviewing people, having a conversation with stakeholders around the DPW.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Super.
And Rachel, two questions that I have, well, one question and then just a follow-up. In regards to the couple of other areas that you guys are testing out business-wise, if those were to come to fruition, would that mean an increase in your production and jobs and those kinds of benefits coming from that as well?
Yes.
Great. And I only
Very
ask
much.
just because there's so many grants that pop up sometimes that talk about jobs and job numbers and those types of things. So I'll make sure that if we see things that bubble up, to pass them along to you in the chain of emails that gets distributed. So I'll make sure that
Thank you.
that marked down. And then also, I just wanted to say, please feel free to keep in touch with us as that stuff moves along. And if there's anything we can do to help provide support, we are just an advisory committee to the select board, but trying to keep a pulse on what's happening here in town and, to support people the best we can in continuing to run successful businesses here in Ashburnham. So I really appreciate you taking the time tonight to just give us a rundown on what's happening in your place in your world. And I'm excited to come down and see stuff at some point.
Good. I'd like everybody to come sometime. Okay, I'm gonna say goodnight, but thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to see new faces.
Thank you.
Rachel.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, so I'm gonna move us along in interest of time. So we have the letter, I guess I'll go in order, Kirby. I'm even following my own notes. So we have a nomination, a possible nomination for a new member here for the Economic Development Commission. Erica, who has joined us at the last couple of meetings that we've had, Her and I had a discussion, and she is interested in being considered to become a part of the commission. And so I'm putting that out there for discussion and the possibility to raise that as a motion to go to the select board. And so I don't know if someone wants to make a motion and we can have discussion, or if people would like to discuss first and then make a motion. Happy to do whatever.
Can we just have a brief discussion first before?
Yep.
We have to have a nomination. Do we have to have a motion first or not, Kirby?
We can have an informal discussion as long as it's not leading to how you would vote on the matter, I think is the technical rules of order.
I know when we first met, she had some concern about being part of the committee, and unfortunately, I can't remember what the concern was.
Yeah, so she is part of a national oh gosh, my brain is so fried right now.
Sorry.
She works abroad as part of, and my brain's not working to come up with the right language of what it is. But she's a national service family. And so she does a lot of economic development work in places abroad. So she does have a deployment that is coming up. So she would not be around for the month of February, but just after that would be back in the area for, as far as she knows, about 2 years. So she thought it was a good time for her to try and give back to the community and plug into areas that she felt like she might have some expertise. She's particularly interested in the discussion that I had with her, a week ago to say, do you have any more questions? Are there things you're concerned about? Et cetera, in her skills kind of matching up with helping with grant writing, because that's something that she does a lot of. And, thought that might be an area that she could bring some, possibility to the committee, as well as some of her background in just development and project management overall. So she did express that, she'd be more than happy and interested to try and get involved with some of the work that we're doing around organizing sign purchasing or banners or, those kinds of things that she feels like she has some skill set towards. So, those were the few things that we spoke about in regards to.
Kirby, I'm
stuff.
sorry. She's still living full-time in Washington, DC?
No, she's a full-time resident of Ashburnham.
Is she in town? Is she in Ashburnham more than half the time?
Yes.
So she has moved back here, because I think I recall the last discussion that she was not full-time living in Ashburnham. She owned property, but she was not living here full-time.
So she is just like a service family in terms of what her residency requirements are. So in terms of like, if you are a service person who is deployed overseas, technically your residency, voting, et cetera, is still in Ashburnham. They fall under the same residency guidance. And as of right now, because of COVID, as far as I know, she is in Ashburnham full-time.
Oh, okay, that just conflicts with some of the notes that I have from our last meeting, where she was noting that she was in DC full-time and comes up here as much as she can.
I can look at the email because obviously this was something I had to get vetted beforehand.
Yeah.
And she was living here full-time and working remotely, at least so this is her schedule. Our legal residence is Ashburnham. She votes here. They have a 2-year posting in Washington, DC, but she's working remotely from Ashburnham. So from October 2020 to mid-January 2021, she's full-time in Ashburnham. From mid-January 2021 until February, March, she's in West Africa. So that might be where she is right now.
No, she's here. That trip, I guess, has been postponed, but
Oh,
that was
okay,
her
good.
concern for her February meeting.
Okay. April through August of 2021, she's in Ashburnham full-time. And then September 2021, for 2 years, she will be back and forth between DC and Massachusetts.
But her legal residence would still be Ashburnham,
Correct,
because that's a requirement by the bylaw, right?
correct. And she's a legal voter, permanent residence and legal registered voter of Ashburnham. So she fulfills that requirement. So then we looked at the remote participation policy, and as that's written right now, she is also able to participate remotely and be a member of the committee. You know, we are reviewing the remote participation policy now. Based on our last meeting, there was no indication by either Bill or Leo that they wanted to substantially change the current remote participation policy. It was just updating some of the language.
Based on the review that you did, she meets all the requirements of being able to.
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's what the board, when the board questioned it, that's what we were told.
I like her capabilities, that's for sure.
She's already appointed to another committee. That's why we looked at it. So she's on the Affordable Housing Committee.
Folks want to put a motion out and then we can have some discussion around this, some more discussion folks would like.
Well, I'll make a motion that we have her join the board, the commission, I mean.
Second,
I just want to, this is a procedural thing.
Yeah.
So if you're going to take a vote, everybody needs to be on a video, okay?
okay.
I'm having some internet problems.
Okay, yeah, so we just need
So I'm
to
in,
do a quick-
thank you. So I'm in and out. So it's just going back.
So is there a discussion that we would like to have around this? In addition, I guess I'll just say my thoughts on it is that at this moment, we have multiple seats open for this commission. And I'd be happy to have anybody that's willing to put in some time and help organize projects. I think she's a good skill set. I do have some concerns around her long-term ability to serve on the committee, but you know, I think that as long as we're upfront and honest about her ability to be able to participate, and if that changes, you know, making sure that she's able to step off of the committee, you know, I don't have any issues.
I agree.
I agree too.
I have some questions. The first question I have, because I know it's taken myself and maybe some other folks on this committee multiple years to get on this committee due to various changes in the requirements. So I guess my first question is, what type of membership are we talking about that is open? Is it a business ownership requirement? Is it a property owner? Is it at large? So what is it? What's the breakdown on the types of memberships on this committee that are open?
So we have a resident spot open and a business spot open. So she would be filling the resident spot.
The second point I have is just the continuity. I think for a committee like this, I mean, 2 years back and forth, maybe going overseas for an extended period of time. Granted, you know, remote participation where there is a fairly significant time difference, where you really need to have, in certain cases, as you know, well as when COVID hopefully is behind us, you know. I think really an in-person perspective that is lost through virtual. My concern is that, you know, with her schedule at this point being a little uncertain, I don't want to put her in. I think she's a fabulous candidate. Don't get me wrong when I say this. My concern is that we may want to think about somebody that was, you know, in town permanently, that can, you know, be here and commit to a long-term projects and you know, from the EDC perspective, rather than somebody that may not be able to commit because their schedule is taking them to all ends of the world. I do a lot of travel myself, but it's not for 2 years at a time. It's not for a year here or 8 months here or back and forth to DC to live and work. Those are my concerns. It's the continuity.
Other comments from folks, thoughts,
Do we
Well,
have,
I think we're,
or
go ahead,
questions?
Paul.
oh, okay, sorry. Do we have any requirements within our policies as far as being able to attend meetings? I.e., if you don't attend 3 meetings, you're off or something like that, or?
It's in the appointed committee handbook.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's up to the chair to determine whether or not the person's fulfilling their obligations and then make a recommendation to the appointed authority as to whether or not someone should be removed.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, I was just going to say, I think we're going to remain virtual for the remaining part of the calendar year. And my way of thinking, I think that she could probably contribute as much, even if she is overseas for a period of time. And again, if we go down the road and it doesn't work out, then we can ask her to leave or make it known to her when we appoint her that that is really like a requirement we'd like to go in with.
I just think we have to be very cautious of the optics of having somebody on a committee that may not be in town, you know, consistently.
Well, I understand your concern, Craig.
Other thoughts from folks?
Are there other people beating down the door to be on the committee?
So far,
I don't
no, but you know, I think also to be just open and honest, I don't know that we've done a huge like direct reach out around
yeah,
that
no, I know.
either. You know, and that's something that I don't have time for it at this moment. And
No, I think she has a
yeah.
lot of that she could bring to the table, but I hear Greg, I hear what you're
Yep.
saying. It's like, we don't really want to have this impression publicly that we're just, you know, bending the rules, or this person is like here some of the time and not here some of the time and whatever. Yeah, I get it.
Again, Christina, I think we're going to be virtual. So whether we're here in town or wherever, it's going to
Right.
be Zoom. That's what we're going to meet on.
I mean, is this an appointment till next February, or what is the term limit on this?
I would have to look and see technically what the term space is for that
Mhm.
spot, because they're all on rotating ones.
So that might be another thing, if she has like a 1-year term or something, then it's a little more finite. I don't know. I don't know. Rosemary, you might know more about that.
I don't know anything about the appointment terms. That's the town clerk would know that, or Kirby.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess it's a very good question. So is she, because we're missing Jacqueline,
Jacqueline was in the business seat.
Business
Yeah.
slot,
okay,
yeah.
okay, so we have that spot open from a business seat perspective. And is this position, was this always open, or was this, was somebody in that spot?
Historically,
No.
that's a great question. I'm
Okay.
not 100% sure.
Okay, okay, that's
Was
good.
Rich filling a business or residential?
Um,
Should have been
Yep,
both.
you're muted.
Oh, he's planning.
No,
from the
planning
planning
Oh,
board.
he was planning board.
Right.
And Phil is,
Phil is a resident.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the difference between a resident and a business, you have to be the owner of a business, which means it has to be a for-profit making business and you have to own it. Okay. So that's the designation for business. So if it were not for profit, you're not the business owner. Okay, that's a legal
better
definition.
believe it.
Yep. So you have to actually own a business. A resident, you know, you have to do what we said. You have to have a property or vote or both. I mean, if it was somebody who lived in an apartment building, they can still be on a committee. You don't have to own property. You just have to be a legal resident and be registered to vote in the town of Ashburnham.
Claire?
Was that a regulation that changed? Because when this Economic Development Committee was originally formed, there was a renter who wanted to join and was turned down because they only rented.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't either.
Yeah. I mean, plenty of renters if you live in, I mean,
Yeah, I can't speak for past stuff. All I can say is that I'm going to do my best to push us into the future with open arms. All right, any other discussion around
Are
this?
we ready to vote if we don't know what the term limit is then? I'm not sure, Kirby. I don't know. I'm gonna have to jump off in a minute here and make a phone call,
Well,
but,
you know, just for clarifications, this is just a recommendation
oh, yeah, So-
because the board appoints her.
okay,
So it's just a recommendation. Do you recommend that she's on the committee or not?
yeah.
Do folks want to take a vote? Do we want to push this to next month when we have our other committee members here?
I think we should
When-
take a vote.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know, when, Rosemary, when are you planning on voting on this at the next selectmen meeting, or what's
Well,
your plan?
We already have pulled the agenda well, I think it's finalized as of tonight. So it wouldn't be until February 16th. And then if you miss the 16th, which I think you do because you'll meet on the 17th, then it won't be an appointment until a vote to appoint until March.
I think we should do it.
Are we just missing Phil? Is that who we're missing, or?
Phil and Richie.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right, I forgot.
We have a quorum, we have a motion on the table. It's a recommendation to the board. She has the background, she has the interest. I say we move forward, either yay or
I
nay.
agree.
All right, so I'm going to
Agree.
call for a vote. All those in favor, if you could say aye and raise a hand, just so we
And
can.
we can do,
Aye.
can we do roll call? Sorry, just from a minute's perspective.
Yep. Paul,
Oh, did you say Paul?
yep, sorry.
sorry. No, used to starting at the beginning, the end of the alphabet. Yes. Aye.
It's just my screen where you show up. Ron,
Yes.
Christina,
Aye.
Greg,
Sorry, guys, I'm gonna have to vote no.
that's fine. We respect your decision. That's the whole point of this, having a vote. And I say aye. Any abstentions? No, because we have that. Okay, I think that's it for our minutes then.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right, our next order of business for the evening is around the letter of support for the rail trail grant. Rosemary, do you want to just give a quick update of where things are? I know you spoke about it last time, but just on where we're at with this application and what the application is for. Oh, you're on mute.
It's a feasibility study to look at the two possible routes of connecting to the North Central Pathway in Winchendon. So one of the routes, it's only looking at the former Cheshire line. It's not looking at downtown Ashburnham to South Ashburnham. It's looking at South Ashburnham up the former Cheshire line. The first route would make a left at Old County Road, go west, and then at the Winchendon town line, it becomes Teal Road, and Teal Road intersects the North Central Pathway very close to the Old Gardner Road parking lot. The second option, which has been recommended to us to look at, for the primary reason that the Department of Transportation likes to stay on rail beds. They don't like to go on roads. So that would be continuing northwest on the former Cheshire line, crossing the significant wetland that's behind Cheshire Pond, to Route 12 at about the transfer station. It would cross Route 12 to the other side, and then it would follow parallel to Route 12, crossing Depot Road, and then going into the town of Winchendon, and with the thought that it would at some point connect to the North Central Pathway at North Ashburnham Road. We have three, all members of the board are supportive of this. I'm currently writing it now, collecting letters of support. Yeah, everything is moving forward. So it's a grant where it's we're requesting $60,000 for the grant. There is a town match of 20%, and we've got, like I said, we're just ready to move forward. If it isn't feasible to move forward and connect with the North Central Pathway, then we know where we stand on how we might develop the rail trail from downtown Ashburnham to South Ashburnham. So it's important on how we build out, primarily because the Department of Transportation has already told me that it's extremely unlikely that they would support payment for a project from downtown Ashburnham to South Ashburnham without the connection.
Yeah, because they're really interested in the connecting pieces at the state level. So
Correct.
that makes sense.
So Rosemary, I'm sorry, what is it that you're actually asking for the EDC? Are you looking for us to support this letter of support? And then secondly, the request is for the grant is a $60,000 grant with a town match. Is that inclusive of the 60, or is that a separate?
That's separate.
20%? So that essentially would be going to town meeting, and we'd be asking the town to vote on that.
I don't believe so. The monies have already been allocated back in 2019. So the only reason we did not apply in 2019 and 2020, 2019, we did not have permission from Pan Am Railroad to access the railroad bed, which is a requirement of the grant. The other one is 2020, we didn't have the money to front the reimbursement. It's a reimbursement grant. So the town would have to front the full total of the grant and then get reimbursement at a later date. So this particular grant will, it's due February 1st. We'll get the notification if we get an award or not in June. And then we have 1 year in order to complete the feasibility study.
Just curious, Rosemary. So I think the last few meetings we had, there were some questions about the monies that were allocated to EDC. I think there was like maybe close to 100 grand that the town of Ashburnham approved that the EDC have. Is this town match of 20% going to be taking from that those monies that were approved for EDC, or is that coming from someplace else?
Well, some of it's coming from Ashburnham Rail Trail Incorporated. They're putting their money up, money that they've fundraised over the years. And then right now, some of it is coming from economic development based on a vote of economic development back in 2019. But that's a Board of Selectmen decision. So how it works, Greg, is economic development can vote to recommend, and the Board of Selectmen can then vote in order to take the money from the fund. That right there, right now, we're just sort of waiting to see how this rolls. You know, the money's there, and how we access that, that's something that Brian will determine, and also whether or not we even access it or we use it from other funds.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you.
So this evening, I did send around a pre-made letter of support, because that is the ask is if we would like to provide a letter of support for this project. So I don't know if folks had a chance to look at that or not.
Are you able to bring that up on your screen, Kirby?
I can. Let me see if I can do this without having everything collapse from too much bandwidth. All right, can folks see that?
Yes.
Oh, you're good.
I'm gonna scroll slowly
Yeah.
to bring up this first part. I'll give a minute here.
Mhm.
And I'll just say, as customary, I reused all of the language that Rosemary had initially sent in the letter of support ask, and then just included a paragraph at the bottom.
So this is going to the Mass Trails Grant Program, folks. This is externally facing?
This gets, yeah, it gets uploaded as part of the grant application.
So just so that you know, we have letters of support from Mount Grace Land Trust, the North County Land Trust, the town of Winchendon, the city of Gardner, Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. I'm expecting, Cease might be able to say this, a letter from Open Space and Recreation Committee. They voted to approve. Conservation Commission, and there's somebody else outstanding. I think that's it.
The question I have, what technical assistance would the commission provide? That's the only thing down in that second sentence from the bottom. I support the letter. It's just, that's just a question I have.
That's a really good, I missed that part.
Just put that, and that's my, that's Kirby speak for supporting any questions that they have. So
okay.
I'm happy to adjust that.
No, just a question in my mind. That's
No,
So, yeah.
that's a fair
Yeah.
question.
I just need clarity. I'm sorry. I'm not as quick, I guess. Is this a technical assistance grant for?
It's a feasibility study.
It's a fees. So 60,000 plus the 20% would just provide us with, and I understand that this would go into a larger package or something like that. But so the 60K that we would get plus the 20% that we throw down would provide us with a feasibility study and what we need to do.
I can tell you what is in the scope because I've received the scope from 2 engineering firms. So it would be an introduction, history, and statement of need. Existing conditions, including description of the conditions for potential routes, including mapping, photography, aerial and low flight drone imagery, context and land use planning using GIS data, public meeting and community outreach, On alternatives analysis, identifying constraints such as environmentally sensitive areas, adverse impact, prohibitive costs, land ownership. Identify issues regarding design, permitting, and right-of-way. Develop detailed cost estimate. Develop routing recommendations based on alternatives and input from the public. Develop detailed mapping and diagrams to display recommended routes and phasing. Develop implementation plan to guide future efforts, and identify sources of funding.
So at the
So
end of the,
it's also my understanding too, that this is like the pathway to get on the tip list to be able to access the grant funds needed to do the project so that the state pays for it.
Yeah, so if it's feasible, how it works is if it's feasible and they make a recommendation to purchase, or we could apply for an acquisition grant. And then from there, we look for viability from the DOT. So this is
Rosemary,
a separate rail, there's a separate rail trail tip from the Department of Transportation. So we don't have the money to pay for any of this build out. So the thought would be that we would present them the entire package from downtown Ashburnham to the connection, if, you know, wherever that might be, DOT, they would look over the proposed project and determine whether or not they thought it was viable. If it wasn't viable, we just stop right there, right? If it's viable, then we have the option of then having to pay for the engineering costs. So that's something that the town, then you have to go to town meeting, okay? So engineering costs, or, you know, I don't know how all else we'd get it, but, you know, then you'd go to town meeting and there'd be a vote to whether support the engineering costs and breaking up the project in 2 years, phase one, or 2 projects, phase 1, phase 2. So this is a significant, I'm assuming is going to be a significant cost project in the millions of dollars. So that's why DOT would likely allow us to do a phase 1, phase 2.
again, Rosemary, on the Route 12 alternative, is that going to include a bridge over Route 12?
I have no idea, Ron. This would be something that they would, you know, the feasibility study would talk about.
Because I would say right now, those people fly past the recycling center, and I certainly wouldn't want people trying to cross 12, walking or biking.
Right. And that might be one of the restraints that you have and why they might not go straight.
Yeah.
You know, in all transparency, the Department of Transportation recommended turning left at Old County Road.
Oh, okay.
well, they walk down the road anyway. There's runners down that road anyway. So if anything, you know, a crossing or some sort of crosswalk or whatever that can be allowed would be better than having kids running, jogging on the street as a whole. Be better off running on a rail trail. Obviously, there's no doubt about that. This is not, you know, this is a great project. I just, from the perspective of, I think that sort of that comment where, you know, it's really just at the end of the day, you know, say we do our due diligence, we submit this, we get the 60, you know, we get this grant to do the feasibility, and then we want to really take it to the next level. And I certainly don't want to sound like someone that a negative person, because I very, very been focusing on these types of things since my only 18 years in town, right? But I would just hate to go through all this stuff, you know, pay the money up front, and then all of a sudden, you know, after all is said and done, just have that rate limiting step of, hey, we don't get the grant, or we don't have the.
Oh, you don't pay it up front, right?
Or we don't have the $16 million, or, you know, the periodic payments, or, you know, whatever. I hate seeing these projects, you know,
Greg, I don't think you understand. If we don't get the grant, you don't give them the money until at the end when you write the check to the engineering firm.
That's
after-
not what it's not what I'm talking about, Rosemary. I'm talking about this sort of the next phase of this. Say we get this grant, okay, this grant that we're talking about here. Okay, we get that 60,000. We go through all the feasibility, okay? And then it comes down to the next perspective, okay, applying for that tip or applying through the DOT to get some other type of grant that can actually be shovel ready stuff, right? What percentage will be on the town? And will the town be willing to absorb that? Or will it be just another project that just sort of sits there? Like I look back on the days of when the original rail trail was bought by the town, right? There was just so many great ideas, right? But I mean, and I know the people on the rail trail committees are doing their darndest to keep that trail updated and walkable, but not much really has really happened, and it's been years.
Well, here, I'll give you a brief history of it. Okay, very brief. So the town went to town meeting and got somewhere upwards of $25,000, $30,000 for a 25% design plan from downtown Ashburnham to South Ashburnham. It was incorrectly submitted by our town planner, and it was kicked to the curb by DOT as a non-viable plan, because that was not how you submit it. You don't submit it in segments. You submit the whole thing from downtown Ashburnham to South Ashburnham, not downtown Ashburnham to Turnpike Road. So that got kicked. So we're already into this for buying all the land from the railroad, okay? The $25,000, $30,000 for the design plan for a segment, which is now out of date. I'm agree with you, Greg. Okay, it was done back in 2008, 2009, and now it's obsolete almost, because we have to update all the wetlands requirements. We have to update all the engineering requirements because we didn't move quickly enough. So I agree completely with you, Greg. The town drags its feet, it makes mistakes. But now going for this feasibility study, I've had conversations with DOT. They are interested in doing the downtown Ashburnham to Winchendon and working with us, because that's what they want to see. They don't want to see a segment like Kirby said. They want to show connections. So you're exactly right, though. If we can prove connection, the stumbling block is the engineering costs, right? And maybe you're right. We could go to town meeting, and let me tell you, it's going to be years from now. It's not going to be like next year, Greg. It's going to be several years from now. We could go to town meeting and ask for the engineering costs, and that could be the end of it right there. But if it's the end of it, it's the end of it, right? At least we now know what we can do from downtown Ashburnham to South Ashburnham. Right now, why should we invest any money in the rail trail if we don't know how we're going to develop it or where it's going to go? Or are we throwing money at a project that could be done by the Department of Transportation and cost us far less, because the engineering costs are far less than the full build out of that rail trail from downtown Ashburnham to South Ashburnham, which DOT has told me is a $4.5 million project just to go from downtown to South Ash.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're expensive.
So we would never have that money. So we have to determine whether or not it's just going to be a trail through the woods forever and just walk away from ever thinking it's going to be a rail trail like North Central Pathway, or are we going to press forward? So, it's a difficult time. I mean, hey, CEAS is on Rail Trail Committee. It is so painful after almost 20 years. I mean, I haven't been doing it for that long, but 20 years of people, raising money and working hard and going out there and clearing the trail, they need to know where the end point is with this project. And that's where we are right now.
Yep,
Where are
there's
we
no doubt
going
about
with
that.
it?
Yep, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I no, I support it. I'm just trying to think, a few steps ahead so we don't end up in those positions if we can help it, right? So
And I
absolutely.
think too, to your point, Greg, I think one of the nice things about our committee is that although we don't have a whole lot of like legislative authority or those types of things, we are the folks that can continue, and this is on our agenda to talk about every meeting, and to continue the conversation and try and make sure that the select board knows that this is a priority to continue moving forward with, and doing our work on that piece of it as well. So
Well, I support the letter. I just like to see the whole plan that Rosemary just talked about. So no, as far as the letter goes, I support it as just a EDC member.
All right, so can I get a motion for us to approve? Do we need a motion technically? I don't know.
Might
To
as well
support this, I think we should just have one. So
Yeah.
I'll make the motion that we provide this letter of support.
I'll second that.
all those in favor, good hands and aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Okay, I see none. Any abstentions? I see none there as well. Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, under our old business, we have, I'm gonna stop sharing this too so I can see everybody better. Okay, both around the signage, which I know Phil has been busy trying to get quotes, information from the DPW and the state around like where signage placement can happen, who can do what scopes of work. So I would anticipate in our next meeting that we will we'll have that information to look over and continue those conversations. But I don't have any significant updates. I don't know, Greg, do you have anything additional? Because I know you've been helping Phil with some of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I think we talked last meeting about a few spots where the sign could potentially go. However, I think there were some concerns about the land ownership over in that area, so we may have to reconsider where that goes. But the second part really comes down to, getting the quotes, but having the EDC money freed up so we can actually make a purchase. So it's kind of the same thing I was alluding to earlier. We have these ideas, we have some funds that the town voted to give to the EDC, not give to us, but I think you know what I mean. But from, even if we get the quotes, do we have the funds to purchase the signs, right? So I think that's the rate limiting step right there. I think the discussion's arbitrary if we don't have the funds for it.
So I'm going to jump in real quick. What you need to do is you have to get your quotes together, and then you need to vote to recommend that the money be expended, and then it goes to the Board of Selectmen. Now, so I think what you're talking about that has to go to town meeting, I don't know if perhaps Bill talked about this. He's more knowledgeable than I am because he was the chair when they started economic development, but there is a technicality about how that money is taken out of the account. So the town meeting piece, I believe, is that they're going to go to town meeting and change the way that account is set up so that it can be accessed. So right now, the current town administrator does not want to use any of that money until we change it. So I don't know, do you remember, Kirby, is it going into a revolving fund or?
Yeah, so they want to move it from the way that it is currently into a revolving fund, so that we're able to, access it in an easier way. Technically, the way that it's been being accessed up to this date has not been in line with how state accounting is supposed to be done.
I'm not even sure how the funds are still there. I would have thought they would have been closed out to free cash.
I thought it was ongoing, right?
No, because
Ongoing?
it's actually was a town article.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it sits in an article,
Got it.
but the way it was set up, our former town accountant and town administrator didn't know about this requirement. So the
I
new
think there
town,
were some legal oversights from our attorney.
So it's my understanding that that is going to be put on the agenda to be able to create that revolving account for those funds to be able to move forward at the next town meeting. But also that until that date, that I think just in general, because of the fiscal pieces of the town, there was a freeze on any expenditures to begin with. And I don't know where that stands currently, Rosemary. For my perspective right now, though, I do think we need to have a solid plan that we're going to put forward for when we're voting on this to recommend in terms of getting those finalized signage quotes, which Phil and I have chatted, and I know he is busy working on getting a understanding from the DPW on what their scope of work is able to be done, whether they have granite posts, and then the third piece on, you know, actual placement of the sign and where that needs to go, and who owns what. And so I know Phil was tracking down all three bits of that information that I think is going to be critical for us to even, you know, move this forward.
there still is a budget freeze.
Yeah. So my goal would be for us to be able to have everything set to go and voted on and ready to move, so that as soon as we do not have a budget freeze and we have fixed the revolving account pieces, that we can move forward with this.
Yeah,
'Cause
and
I think there's an appetite from the select board to want to move forward with this as well.
yeah, I think you just need to make, you know, get it out there so that it's, you know, it's on everyone's radar to put on an agenda when we can do it.
So I will follow up with Phil just to make sure that we're still moving forward on those three pieces for us to continue with that. The other piece of discussion that we had for this evening was around, and I'm gonna see if I can share this, our ad that goes into the Johnny Appleseed. We had pushed this to talk about this meeting, specifically because we wanted to really look at what was in the ad, and we had a little bit of extra time to do this, but we need to make two decisions. One, do we want to advertise in the spring guide? And if we do, are there changes that we would like to make to the ad? And this is what it looks like currently.
One correction would be 3 bed and breakfasts. I don't know anymore because that one downtown Main Fair B&B is not a B&B anymore. I don't know, does
There's
that
two.
matter?
There's only two.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better just to leave the number out? I mean.
Yeah, just
bed and
put
breakfast.
multiple bed and breakfasts, right? That would cover 2 or more, right?
I think you
Maybe.
got a space problem.
Oh, yeah. Just bed and breakfast then?
Yeah.
You're right, Ron. Yeah, I like
I
that.
would think.
Do we have the money to pay for this?
That's a great
Oh.
question.
It's $850. Come on, guys.
Yeah, we have that.
It's not a lot of money. We gotta
just-
get
I
something
think
out
it's
there.
more of the mechanism to be able to pay
Right.
for that.
The budget freeze.
Yeah, I mean,
Again.
hey, I'll be honest with you, we defer completely to Brian on the budget freeze piece.
I guess the other thing, guys, I'm sorry, I think I would be fine with this, right? But I think it's also dependent on what the town is going to choose to do from its COVID policy. You know, from the perspective of summer band concerts at the park and in a farmer's market and community days, things that of last summer, were canceled. So I guess I'd like to hear from the various departments or the guidance from the town administrator on what direction the town's going to be taking on COVID, as we enter into spring and then into summer.
The thing is though, too, I just want to comment, Greg, I mean, some of the stuff, that you could eliminate the things that are more temporary, but, miles of hiking trails, rail trail, you could have, historic Shaker sites, Mount Watay, those things are not going away whether we have COVID or not, right?
True.
Yeah,
But
they're outdoor activities.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I mean, they have a complete list of things, this is great. I love it. But I don't know. It's funny because we talked about this almost exactly a year ago. And I think we talked about, what did we talk about? I think we talked about really thinking about, a future, version of this, a more modernized version of it. I'm fine with it. Maybe I'm just thinking too much into it, but I still, as a separate note, I would like to understand the plan, the COVID plan for the town of Ashburnham.
The COVID plan for the town of Ashburnham is really the Board of Health and the state. So, that's what it is. We don't make a decision on, the Board of Selectmen or the TA doesn't make a decision on summer band concerts. That's guidance through the state and the Board of Health.
Oh, I thought the Board of Selectmen voted to recommend and endorse the cancellation of certain events. No, that's what I meant, Rosemary. From a town perspective, what is the town's plan, COVID plan, which is inclusive of, police recommendation, health, so on and so forth.
Well, like I said, it's driven by the state and by the Board of Health. So the Board of Health is the one that makes decisions on, mask mandates, if we're going to enforce them or if we're not. They're the ones that enforce let's say there's a business that is not going to comply with a 25% capacity limit in their building. The Board of Selectmen aren't out there and the police really aren't out there. It's citizens or the Board of Health that decides whether or not they're going to do this. So now,
maybe what we can do is we can ask the state then if we can have summer band concerts. So where is that decision? Where is?
Hey, if you want to do the safest thing, Greg, don't even put it in the ad.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's my point. So I mean,
So why are we talking about the Board of Selectmen, the town, and what the Board of Health are doing? Why don't we just look at it realistically, like Ron said earlier? In all likely circumstances, we're going to be in a Zoom meeting until the fall, okay?
Right.
And so let's just look at what is really going to happen here. I don't think we're just going to all open up and walk around freely and all this other stuff for quite some time. So maybe the decision is just a really common sense decision of take it off. Just take off these things we don't know what's going to happen. Do you know, Kirby, what the state is going to say a week from now?
I have no clue what they're going to say within 2 hours, to be quite
But
honest.
I don't think it's that complicated. To lead it in with shopping, fine dining, and live entertainment is probably not smart.
Right.
We have to take that off, and we just say we delete for the next 9 months or whatever. This ad is running in spring, summer 2021 issue,
Exactly.
right? I mean, we're just going to customize it for COVID. I mean, what else could we do? We're just going to take out some of the stuff that we know is probably not going to happen. Include the stuff that we know is not going away, like Mount Watay and
what's
trail,
Yeah. Well, what's Westminster doing? Because I know during the time when we canceled our, or I guess the state mandated that we shut down our band concerts and things like that. Westminster had their band concerts and they had their farmers market. So I guess from
Well,
the
and just to
perspective,
be clear, Greg, on
hold
the,
on, if I can just finish my point, please. From the perspective of what Westminster doing as our neighbor, do they have a similar post like this?
I have no clue what they post in their, in the, if they post in the magazine, I don't know. I have no clue what Westminster does. Although I do just want to be clear that the farmer's market did not run because of any state guidelines. It did not run because we did not have vendors to participate in the market this
Okay,
year.
right.
We did not have vendors to participate in the market because so many people purchased all of the meat and vegetables and food from all of our agricultural producers like that. And so we had no vendors, which is why that did not move forward. I can't speak to the other items because those aren't in my purview. And I do not know where any of this sits. So I guess for questions of this is just, do we want to run this ad again and spend the money to run the ad? Would we like to pause this ad until the fall? Or would we like to edit this ad to be a little bit more generic for us to place in the ad?
So here's one more comment. How many people are going to Johnny Appleseed Visitor Center, wherever this is going to be, because it's going to be in this publication?
Right.
Realistically, how many people are moving around that much to pick up this publication, to see this ad? I don't know. I'm just saying this devil's advocate.
I think that's a great point, Christina.
You know, that maybe we do take a pause and say, but I don't want to trash, I don't want to destroy the Johnny Appleseed or the, you know, the publication, because we're not supporting it through ad advertising, but we're in a really bizarre pandemic time. I mean, this is, everybody knows it. And so we just got to get through it. You're right. Maybe it's not worth it. Maybe we take a pause. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ron?
Half this stuff is not going to apply right now anyway, so we got to majorly edit it. So that's all.
I think you're going to find that come the spring, you're going to find a lot of people getting out to the outdoors and traveling. So I
Right.
think an ad like this through Johnny Appleseed will help us. Now, as far as editing the items on the left, I mean, we've got summer activities, we've got skiing. You know, I think we're getting down into the weeds about looking at bullets. We're going to have COVID with us to the fall. What it's going to do to the band concerts or farmers markets, I don't know. But I, for one, would just like to leave the ad alone, put it in, and have people see what we're capable of, or what we could have out here when the COVID-19 goes
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
I
Only
actually
thing-
agree. Go ahead, Christina.
No, Paul, I was just gonna say 3. I think we should take the number 3 out of the bed and breakfast.
Well, I agree with that. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, actually, Ron beat me to it. I agree with Ron in that this is a piece of advertisement. We're trying to advertise what's in town. If you wanted to put something, you could always say, you could put a disclaimer at the bottom and say, you know, certain events may be postponed or canceled due to public health conditions or current public health conditions or something like that. And it's a document that's trying to tell you what the town is capable of doing.
Right.
I agree.
Other thoughts on this?
So it just the edit of the bed and breakfast, right, Kirby?
So my consensus is that we're just gonna do some minor edits to this for it to move forward.
I'd make that
Is
motion.
that how?
Yeah, I would make one more recommendation, and it would be, could you go down to a smaller ad? Just for no other purposes than to cut the price.
What's the price again?
It's $350, but we're in a budget. I understand, but I'm talking about, you know, trying to talk to the TA about, okay, there's not going to be much difference. See what I'm saying? So you say it's 350 for what? Is this a quarter page or what is
This
this?
is a
half, I think.
half, I think
A
it is.
half. And if we went down, it'd be this, and then he could say, it's not that much more. Let's just go with the 350, right? It's really just, he's never done this before. I don't really, not during a budget freeze anyway.
Rosemary, do we have any of the booklets in the town hall that have our ad in it? Because I think if you go to a quarter page, it's going to be so squinty.
Oh, I have no idea. I mean,
We
I
had
don't
them
know
at one time.
Oh, I know, but I don't know whether or not the Johnny Appleseed people are even distributing this. I mean, when you think about where they put these, most of the places haven't even been open, Ron.
Yeah, I know. Let me see if I've got a copy.
So I don't know. And town hall's been closed. So the library had them. They're not open.
You can get them in certain restaurants. I think the tavern had them on their stoop or whatever at some point.
The Creative Connections had them. I mean, they all get them because many of them advertised in it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, when we're in full mode, they do really wide distribution of this because that's part of their plan around this.
I'm going to try to hold something up. I know it's probably not going to work, but here's a copy I made in on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. I think if you go any smaller, it's going to be so squinty.
I agree.
It's not going to be good. I'd argue for the 350 with Brian any day.
Yeah, I know. It's just really for comparison's point.
Well,
See,
okay.
it's
I
really
can
about-
bring this.
You know
to
what?
the
It's like,
town.
hey, it's like I can get a Toyota Corolla for, $30,000, but I can get a Lexus for 40. You know what I'm saying? It's not right, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, I can bring it down to Mary or Brian and show him if that's what you want. But I'd go for the 350. I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Ron, if we're just gonna do it like this, just to get it out there. But my separate point is I would be interested, I don't know how the rest of the committee feels about this, or maybe even Rosemary from a select board perspective, but I'd be interested to hear or have a larger discussion about how does the town of Ashburnham, advertise itself at a broader level. What are the key items that we really need to exploit from an advertisement perspective, and how do we do that in the most efficient manner? I think it could be a broader discussion. I think from this perspective, this gets the job done. There are those footnotes on COVID. However, I think we should have a broader discussion about how the town itself advertises.
I
I
agree.
agree with a broader discussion, but this is one of the main promotion tools that this town has right now.
Yeah, right.
So I'd have the discussion on the side, but I wouldn't forego.
No, I'm not saying to
Yeah.
get rid of this. I'm
No,
not saying
I
that.
hear
This
you,
is-
Greg.
yeah.
I hear you on that. And that's something I can definitely put on our agenda for us to have broader discussion on. And possibly even just do some brainstorming around what those best practices are, what other communities are doing, and how we could, maybe learn and move forward, I guess.
As part of our membership with North Central, Mass Chamber, or whatever its name is.
Or Central Chamber of Commerce, yeah.
Okay, we are able to put brochures, and there have been in the past brochures that are available in their, tourist area. So it's not just this ad. So there's a Town of Ashburnham brochure. I know there's a rail trail brochure. I don't know if anybody else has them.
Had them at one time, but I don't know.
I think it's a good point. I think this is short money in a way for advertising in the advertising world. Since I know in real estate it can get pricey to do real estate marketing, but also with the website, how much of this is linked to the website? Is this same visual on the website in terms of economic development and that type of thing, or not?
in
No.
North Central?
Or in North Central's website? I believe
Any
Johnny
of it, you know,
Appleseed.
I mean, we
yeah.
have a template here, something that we've already created, and it could be fed out, you know, consistency in marketing, you know, whatever we decide. Visit Ashburnham, if that's what our theme is. We should be pounding it out in all these places, right? So I
Yeah.
agree that we should have more.
We had this brochure too.
Mhm.
Agreed.
I'm actually on the North Central website, and I don't know how you get placed on these things, but for example, casual dining, the town's not in there.
Really?
I
Really?
don't know if it's something you have to buy into, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think the closest thing is the old mill.
Wow.
Just to confirm, I know we had this discussion about the North Central versus the Gardner Chamber. Did we approve, we was around this time last year. Did we, because I know, I think our membership was on the table. Do we continue that membership or do we not? Did we continue that membership with North Central?
I'm not sure.
I don't think we did.
No, we did last year. The board voted to renew that last year. And Paul, you're
Right, because I think the clarification around that, sorry, Rosemary, was just, if I'm remembering the discussion properly, was that EDC had not been a member. It was the town technically that had always been a member of that. So that was not something that was even on our radar screen until they brought it up to us at
Maybe that's
that
what it
last meeting.
Yeah, and if you want to be on their website, you have to be an individual member, business membership.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right, so I'm going to circle back just on the ad so that we can make a decision, because I do need to get back in touch with Diane from Johnny Appleseed about this. So I'm hearing that we'd like to make a motion around just adjusting this slightly, but moving forward with the ad as it stands.
I would move for that, yes.
Okay. Ron's made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion in regards to this?
With the adjustment in the bed and breakfast, sorry if you said that, I missed it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else from folks? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so Rosemary, what's the best way for me to then follow up with this with you all in the town, to send an email to the Board of Selectmen and Brian on this, or?
You could just send an email to me and then I'll forward it on to Leo.
Sounds good.
And then he'll put it on the agenda, or maybe it won't go. It has to go to the board because they have to vote on it. So that won't happen. Maybe we can get it into other business on Monday night if you send it as soon as possible. If not, it'll go to the 16th of February.
When did they need this, Kirby?
It's the end of February, I believe.
Oh, and okay.
I will
All right.
double check on that, but I will email that as soon as I get off of this call to you, Rosemary. Right. So the only other agenda item in that regard under old business was around the business listings, which I'm still waiting on from Town Hall. And I have to be honest, I haven't pestered anybody about it because I've not had time to do so. So I'm putting that back up at the top of my list to send
Well,
another email about that.
They've been understaffed. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, so I don't think people were completely back until this week.
So I will follow up in that regard. And once I get that information, Greg, I'll probably be following up with you on how we can best easily digitize that to make it useful for us.
Absolutely. Harvey, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you had, I know we talked a little bit about this through email, about the property inventory, the distressed property inventory that we were talking about.
I don't have any updates. I
No,
haven't
no,
followed
I
up
just
on
didn't know if
anything.
this, I have. I didn't know if this was something we wanted to talk about now. Do we need to push it to the next agenda? I know it's getting a little bit late. I have a few thoughts, but if it's not on the agenda, maybe we can push it off till next week or next time we meet.
That's fine. Are you okay with that? My brain, I have to be quite honest, guys, I'm hitting the wall.
that's
I don't
fine,
know if
that's
you all
fine.
noticed.
I mean, it's
I'm
kind of a
fine.
big topic, so that'd be good, Greg, if you know, if you
Yeah.
want to put it on as a line item next time, that would be.
So
Yeah.
why don't we put that as a top line item for our next meeting? So that way we'll start with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think it's just going to drain us even more. I'm completely drained as well. It's been a very, very hard and long day.
I know, we're all like,
Yeah.
I've been going since about 6 back to back. So the next thing we have on here is committee updates. So I'm just gonna go around to each one of us for any updates that you have. I'll start with you, Ron. in
Really
your
don't,
world.
I really don't have any from the advisory board. I've been talking to Brian on a couple issues, but really nothing to bring forward right now.
Okay. Christina, anything in your worlds?
no, not too much. Been pretty dormant actually with historical and the one property on Water Street over there, Rosemary, I don't know what's going on with that, that very old house. Get the number right now, but not much going on with that, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it. I mean, I know about it because you told me.
Right, right. And
But
that
we
one
haven't
house
said
on Main Street, you saw that they are renovating that was sitting vacant for so long. What is it, 53, 53 or something? It's up from, a couple up from the stream, from Phillips Brook, and Old Time Restoration. It looks like they're working on that house. So activity is going on there, which is good. It's rather than just being torn down, somebody's working on it. And Richie's multifamily is under agreement over there on Main Street. So I don't know if there's any update on that, but you know, so there's some things going on in town, but nothing major. So
Great. Paul, from your worlds?
I think we're trying to compete with Worcester for the marijuana capital of Massachusetts. I think we have like 45 more to go and we'll catch up to them. But Green Ventures was the last one to come in front of the MRT, a piece of property up on Route 12, I believe. And we did send them back to do a little bit more homework. Good presentation. Just a little bit concerned because they really didn't have any experience other than personal experience, I guess, in growing. So that's at least what I gathered from the presentation. So we just asked them to go back, put a little bit more meat around the presentation, then come back to the committee.
you're very diplomatic, Paul.
I was trying to be. We'll see if they come back. It was supposed to, they're trying to do, solar and wood burning for heat and focus on that type of stuff. An uneasiness that we're going to end up with a building that's now vacant because it's not going to succeed. So we'll see if that comes back. And then as far as Cushing goes, the international students have returned. They're in quarantine right now. And domestic students come back Thursday and Friday. They'll be tested Thursday and Friday and be in quarantine until those results come back, hopefully by Monday, and they will start classes come Monday, either remote or in person, but we hope in person.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, one other quick thing, and we are making some changes and allotment for the kids to be able to do takeout and delivery from the local establishments in town.
Woo!
Rosemary?
Nope, nothing. Did you hear from LRP?
I haven't heard anything.
I keep
Have you?
on that one, no.
No, I know just in general, the state is incredibly backed up right now, with every piece of procurement that is happening. Because the state budget got passed so late, and now all of us have been tasked with doing contracting that normally takes a full year in like a month. So that's a whole other can of worms that's been happening in that world. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're a little delayed on making those announcements around some of that stuff.
We did apply for another shared streets grant. They're pretty quick with those, so we should get our rejection letters soon. I'm not hopeful. If we
Don't be
do,
negative. No,
I
come
know.
on, let's
It's sort
go.
of like winning, mega bucks or whatever. I don't know what they call that thing. And then
Mega millions,
Mega
mega millions.
Millions. We're looking to apply for a community compact grant. We've submitted a DLTA grant, planning is for the land use chapter of the master plan. I'm working to hopefully get a UPWP study from MRPC, a corridor analysis for Route 12 from Quarry Hill to River Styx, primarily looking at freight and the two intersections at 101 and something else. I can't remember what it was. And then and the TIP project, the 101 TIP project, it's TIP season. So, we got those numbers, and our project has increased in cost, not, just the overall price, because they have inflation built into it. That always makes me feel uncomfortable, because then if DOT's running out of money, they push you farther out. So right now we're in fiscal 25, and so we'll be sweating it out until the next couple of months and hope we don't get pushed to 26.
Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. Maybe I misunderstood. Rosemary, did the Complete Streets grant, the initial one, get rejected?
No, I'm not talking about, I never said anything about complete streets. Shared streets. There's another grant called Shared Streets and Spaces. So the first one that we submitted did not get awarded. We were rejected. They came back and they actually did a bit of a, I thought it was great. They came back and did a critique on the application, and it was resubmitted. It actually last week. So we'll see if we get that, but that's for a small section of downtown from where Complete Streets ends to I think not even Central Street, because we have to stay away from the intersection. I think it ends somewhere around Creative Connections. One side it goes to Creative Connections, and the other side it might only go to the family medicine. I wasn't involved in that, so I don't know exactly what the scope of work was. But it was sidewalks and handicap ramps.
That was the project that Bill talked about the last time.
Yeah,
he was
the
on
last
the
one.
call with us. So the initial proposal got denied with a
not get it.
critique.
Yep, they gave a critique.
Okay.
And, 50, I think it was like 54% of the grants were awarded to environmental justice communities.
Yeah.
So that puts us at a disadvantage. Yeah, so he reapplied.
Okay. Thank you. Any other updates from folks on committees? Claire and Cease, I know you're, anything from your worlds?
The only thing I know is the the project that was happening on Route 12 for the open space where they were going to build the houses. He
Mhm.
pulled that application, and now he's just going to go with 4 houses.
4. It's been all over 5, 9, 3, 4. Yeah.
South Peak.
And then the South Peak was signed for on Friday.
Yay.
Yay.
That's awesome. Thanks for those updates. All right. Greg, I know that you didn't have minutes ahead of time. I don't know if you still don't have them or if I can help with getting those pulled together from our last meeting.
I have, I've just been extremely,
No, I get it. We all have. So
I
please
mean,
don't feel bad.
I have my notes. Sorry, I have my notes. I'm having some trouble keeping up with them. But I can find some time where I could submit around just for some basic comments. But they're just kind of all over the place right now.
That's fine. So I will put on our agenda for our next meeting to do an official approval of last month and this month's meeting minutes. And please let me know if I can help with some of that, Greg. And or if you want to send what you have in rough form right now to the committee, I think we all could do a little help in just providing some comments, feedback, and edits to those to help you out with that as well.
Yeah,
Because I
absolutely.
know all of our plates are super full right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And so our next scheduled meeting is for February 16th. I will do my best to send out, as I do typically the week before, for any additional agenda items and get that scheduled. I thank everyone for flexibility with this meeting because of the snafus in my town government with getting this past meeting scheduled. And I appreciate everyone hanging in this evening for the meeting. Is there anything else that folks need? All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So I got a move from Ron. Christina, do you want a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, so much.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.